I am Jacqui, a self-proclaimed productivity nerd, ClickUp implementation specialist, and as the title of this course is, I am on a mission to help companies unfuck their operations. So if you're put off by a little bit of bad language, this may not be the place for you. One of my aunts once told me I had the face of an angel in the mouth of a truck driver. I kind of took that as a compliment. I found that just being me and my own personality in my work tends to pay off and people resonate with that. So I had put out into the internet world, would anybody like a program called Unfuck Your Operations? And some people were like, yeah, go for it. So I figure I'm going to try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I can pivot. So for today, I want to take you through the playbook that I've started to create. One of the programs that I want to launch probably this summer is like an 8-week boot camp. I still don't have a name for it, but to take you through this playbook that every week would have a different topic and homework. So I wanted to pull out the what I thought was the most helpful pieces from that playbook and go over it today. Well, that doesn't look right. That's better. For the playbook today that I would like to cover is getting everyone on the same page. I feel like there's 3 themes that I hear over and over and over again, whether it's on LinkedIn or on YouTube or when I talk to clients or talk to prospects or just do events like this. Is the first one is nobody's on the same page. Everybody works in their own way. There's no consistency. And if 5 people do something, I get 7 different results. So that's the first thing that we're going to tackle today. The next is executing projects with a system people actually use. And to piggyback on that, the other thing that I hear a lot is I don't know what to work on when I start my day. There's too much in ClickUp or my task management system. I don't know how to prioritize and there's just too much. So we're going to talk about executing projects and tasks with a system that people use. Because you could have ClickUp or Asana or Trello or whatever, but if nobody uses it, it's not helpful. And the last is never answer, where is that doc again? Third topic that I hear a lot is decentralization, that there's too many places to find things and that it's really confusing and overwhelming. All without your constant involvement in all of this. Those are the top 3 things from the playbook. All right, so for the agenda, we're going to go over what the UFO, my nice little acronym, of the transformation is. I've got some unexpected lessons learned that I want to talk about, how I got here. You don't want to hear me talk about me for too long, but I think this story has a little bit of relevance. The playbook, the top 3 things, and then if you want to learn more, that automation didn't work the way I wanted. But a lot of our before, situations are, we're always firefighting. There's always something going on that is taking our attention away from all the good intentions we had from the day. And once we implement the playbook, we're going to have strategies for crisis mode. Second, no consistency, which I kind of already touched on. But once the playbook gets implemented, everybody's going to work from the same set of instructions. The third, I spend more time figuring out what I should work on than actually doing work. So your ideal situation there is you get on your computer for the day, you know exactly what to work on, in what order, and if fires come up, you've got a plan to tackle them. Fourth, I'm the only one who knows how to do things the right way. I know I am very much like that. I hear that from a lot of founders and presidents and people in those types of roles. And you've got to, not that you have to, but you want everything run by you. You have to double check everything because you don't think it's going to get done properly. But after implementing the playbook, work is going to get done correctly every time, consistently, reliably, and without you having to be constantly involved in triple checking. I'm going to tell a story later of a client of mine who just had this aha moment and had this just happen in her business. And it was one of the happiest moments for me, and she was even more excited about it. And now a lot of us are thinking, I can't keep working like this, but I don't know what else to do. So at the end, you will have a well-oiled machine that takes care of all the things above. All right, so a question or something that I've really been thinking about is who nails this? I've seen quotes and stories all the time where, if you want to learn how to be a good carpenter, you don't ask Joe down the street who's never held a hammer before. Or if you want to build a successful business, don't go, ask your uncle who's never had a business of his own, who's going to give you all this negative advice and he's going to tell you it's not possible. So I wanted to look at situations and scenarios and groups of people or organizations who have nailed what I want to talk about, because I want to learn from them. Because the key to unfucking your operations, is consistency, precision and accuracy, and contingency planning. So let's take a look at some of these examples. So who has nailed consistency? Schools. I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old boy. They are in kindergarten and first grade. And I am floored at, they come home and, Mommy, what's today? Today's Thursday. Today, my youngest son has library. My oldest son has music. They know exactly what time lunch is. They know exactly what time recess is. They know everything. And I feel like, I wish I could remember my own schedule that well. But schools, especially with young kids, they have predictable routines. They have very clear expectations, or else there would be anarchy. I went to my first graders' Easter spring party yesterday, and me and the other parents are sitting there going, I don't know how these teachers do it. But there's extremely clear expectations. There's consistent consequences for good and bad action. And there's age-appropriate systems. So I've really been trying to think about, how can we tap into what school districts and teachers do, in our own business. And if anybody has any stories they want to share along the way, please feel free. Oh, that thing. That animation was out of order, but schools do the same thing every damn day. That's a good summary. All right, the military is what Brett and I were chatting about. And there he is. So precision and accuracy. I've listened to, I was actually talking with my neighbor about this morning. Chris Voss is an author that I've liked to listen to, who was a hostage negotiator for the FBI. I've listened to other Navy SEAL books, and I've got some friends who are veterans, and hearing about how the military works with their precision and their accuracy, I feel like we can learn a lot from. A Navy SEAL team wouldn't fly overseas and get dropped out of a helicopter without practice, without a plan, without accountability, without a clear leader. And I feel like a lot of this is lacking in business, where we have not practiced what we're going to do. We don't know who's in charge, and we just kind of wing it. But if a military group winged it, people would die. There'd be very serious consequences. So I think we can learn a lot from the military also. And first responders for contingency plans. There we go. So for first responders, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, there is no such thing as a normal day. Their job is literally crisis management. Their job is literally firefighting. So their job on a day-to-day basis is what we get annoyed at that we have to deal with. There's a client emergency. There's, our accounting software is down. To us, those are things that we've got to deal with. But that is their job. That is how they train. They've got plan B, C, D, F. They've got plans for every possible scenario. And they practice and rehearse. I know a doctor doesn't quite fit into this, but you would hope that a doctor has practiced surgery many, many, many times before you go and get your heart sliced open. You would hope an EMT has practiced doing the things that they do. A firefighter, you would hope that they know how to go in and search a house and look for people. So again, lives literally depend on the type of work that they do. So I think we can learn a lot from these groups of people.
I'm going to chime in here because you just brought me a memory. I was the 911 here in my country for almost 6 years.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, there's no normal day. That's crisis management. I was an operator. I was on the phone getting the calls when whatever happened.
Okay.
And just last week, we had a really bad crisis here, a nightclub. The ceiling went up and hundreds of people died. And within 48 hours, they had to take out all the live and not live people. Okay. That's a huge, as a country, it's a big impact for all of us. Very important people die there. But this that you just mentioned, I feel so connected to this because I went through it for a long time.
Yeah. Wow, I'm sorry that happened. That's awful. But
What I would tell you is the military does all three of those things.
Hmm.
And the reason why you have precision and accuracy is because of the consistency. And the consistency comes from a thing called battle rhythm, which
Okay.
is itself a science and an art. And depending on how depth that we want to get into that, it
Hmm.
creates in the now, in the next, and in the future. And
Hmm.
then on the contingency planning side, we do a thing called battle drills. Battle
Okay.
drills are pre-scripted actions that you take given a particular circumstance. So if you're going to
Okay.
be if you have a sales call that came in, you would have a
Hmm.
drill for that, so to speak. If you
Okay.
have an emergency in that, there's these things are all interlocking in the military experience. So it's
Okay.
not like that we don't do consistency. It's how
Yeah. Oh
we
yeah.
do consistency, and the contingency planning, which leads to the precision and accuracy,
Hmm.
and how the planning is done, and the planning is done in depth and all this. So, again, conversation for a different time if you want to go into detail. But I would say
Hmm.
that the military is the best example of all three, and they're
Hmm.
all interlocking. Over.
Yeah. I love that. My husband works for Department of Defense with the Navy, and a lot. I love a lot of what you said, and I'm an athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life, and the same thing when you said drills. Like you don't go into a soccer or a football or a hockey game and just pray for the best. You drill and you practice, and I love that. And I honestly can't say I've ever done a practice drill in business. Maybe in sales calls. Years and years ago, I was in sales and we would practice. But for operations, or if I work with some software companies, and if servers go down, like you got to have plans. So I love that, Brett. Thanks for sharing that.
One of the greatest fallacies I heard from colleagues of mine is that you stop training when you go to combat, and that's not true.
Oh.
Units that go to combat who are in contact are actually still in training mode, still in
Mm-hmm.
rehearsal mode. So the idea that in business you don't train, well, if you're doing after action reviews, you're training. If you're sitting down and
Yes.
chit chatting, if you're doing your quarterly one-on-ones with people, you're training.
Yep.
So to
Yep.
say you don't do it, it's really it's a mindset change, is what I would say.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And the after action report that you were saying, I'm going to tie into some of the project management aspects I have in here later on. But I do, if in AAR for myself, after every client project I finish, I go through all my notes because I time track very, very anally. Go through and did I spend more time on this area of the project where I shouldn't have, or did I go out of scope when I should have reeled myself back in? So definitely. I think we could definitely chat on the side. Thanks, Brett. All righty. Oh, I know, back over there. All right. So, say, what if these groups ran like startups? Well, we would have all day recess, we would have unlimited snack time, and unfortunately, there would be casualties. So, I think with the conversation we just had, really sums up everything. So, all right. So, how does this relate to the playbook? The playbook is going to establish in the business clear roles, responsibilities, and expectations. Everyone is going to follow the same set of steps every time. And when shit hits the fan, you've got a strategy. So projects will be executed quicker, more accurately, and with less mistakes. And sometimes I take a project management perspective on things. Sometimes I take an operations perspective on things, because that's just what my background is. All right. So again, my story. Not that you care too much, but I think it has a little bit of context. So I'll spend a little bit of time on it. So in addition to being a consultant right now, back in 2011, my dad and I founded a brewery together, and we wrote the business plan to building out the facility, ordering kegs, making beer, coming up with recipes. I drove around town selling beer. I had kegs in my car, so we built from the ground up, a business that had people. We had employees, we had tasting rooms, so we had a retail aspect, we had the wholesale side of it. Like it was a pretty big operation. And I had been in sales and marketing before that, but being a co-founder and being responsible for everything taught me lessons that I could not have learned in college, that I could not have learned from a desk job or any other job. And that's really what what started me, to where I am now. And we were a small team at the beginning. Well, we were always a small team, but if somebody was out, if our brewer was out sick and had to clean kegs, nobody knew what to do. If, I was sick one day and the tap room menu had to get reprinted for the weekend, nobody knew what to do. So I started following people around the brewery with a clipboard. This was before ClickUp. I think I used Trello, maybe, but I followed people around the brewery with a clipboard, writing down what they did, how to split a half barrel keg into two in case we need them, how to clean the fermenting tank, how to, I don't know, how to prepare a shipment, or how to prepare all the invoices to go out with the keg deposits. And I put it in a 3-ring binder, and I had one for the tasting room, I had one for the office, I had one out in the brew house. And little by little, over time, I would update them. So then if somebody was out, we would have those instructions. And looking back now, I feel like it seems silly to put it all in a 3-ring binder, but that's what I had back in 2014 or whatever that was. But that's really when I realized, like, okay, I've become that accidental project manager that a lot of people talk about, and learning how to create a business and systems that are repeatable, because we were just, every time we had an event, I was missing things. We would have a St. Patrick's Day beer that wouldn't get, shipped to the bars until a week before when they wanted to start promoting it, a month prior. So I learned the hard way how to prepare and plan and do things consistently, to make the business run much more smoothly, and not depend on a single person. I had exited the family brewery, didn't work out. Family business wasn't for us. But then I was an operations manager for a marketing agency. And same thing, I come in and I'm in charge of HR, which I'd never done, finances, which, the owner thought I had finance experience from running my own business, and internal project management. But there was nothing consistent. There was no checklist for what do I do the first day a new hire starts. There was no checklist for, running a weekly meetings with the team. Like, I had to build everything from the ground up. And it was extremely, extremely frustrating that I come into this supposedly established business and, I had to continue to just figure it out. And, I thought as I tried to figure it out, I thought I was getting there, but all I was doing was fighting fires faster. I wasn't actually creating a system that worked. So I started to document everything in this business as well. I started making checklists. I started making handbooks for people for their first day and first week, which I thought should have been standard, but it wasn't done before. And it all finally started to click when I didn't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. So it was not easy at all. I don't want to make it sound like you can sit down and figure this all out overnight. It's, I've been, we started the brewery in 2011. So 14 years since, my entrepreneurial journey started. And, every day we're figuring things out, but every day we're continuously improving and taking lessons learned and fixing and iterating. So that's kind of the story of where I came from. But in the mess of it all, it is doable. I've got, my kids coming home from school, mommy, I want snacks, coming in and like waving to people behind me on client calls. It can be done. I know it's hard to really step back and take care of these type of things when you're in the middle of running a business. And that's what I tell all my clients, that I know your day job is to run this business, and we'll tackle this in little pieces, because I know it's a big commitment to, work on these operations and work on making these fixes, because the firefighting is critical a lot of the times, but we just have to figure out a way to be more efficient at it. All right. I think I'm on pace pretty well. All right. So here is the Unfuck Your Ops playbook. We're going to tackle the top 3. Well, these are the 3 core problems that the playbook addresses: process or lack thereof, disorganized tasks and projects, and then decentralization. There's more nuance to just these 3 things, but these are the overall themes that the playbook tackles. All right. So the first thing that I do, I borrowed from Systemology. Has anybody read or heard of that book?
No idea.
All right. So there was a book before that I read called The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth. Has anybody heard or read about that one? That was
Heard
Michael
about
E.
it. Haven't read it.
What's that, Casey?
I heard about it, but I haven't read it.
Okay. It's worth a read. I read this back when I was at the brewery with my dad. The Entrepreneurial Myth, the E-Myth, a book. The book is the summary of that book is that you're really good at something, whether you're a carpenter or I don't know, an organizer or planner. So I'm going to start a carpentry business, or I'm going to start a wedding planning business, or my dad and I were really good at making beer at home, so let's make a brewery. And you make this business, but now you are the entrepreneur, so you've got to have the vision. You're the manager and you're the doer in the beginning, wearing 17 hats, and that it's really hard to be the doer. And because for us, or for a lot of like trades type people, you love doing the thing. And I still love doing things, and I get sucked into that. But I'll use a brewery example again. We had hired a brewer, but we wanted to be involved in making the beer, but we had to be involved in the managerial and oversight, but we also had to be involved in the vision and the planning. And that all meshes together and becomes very, very difficult to separate and do. So the concept of the E-Myth is you create a repeatable system, like as if you were going to franchise yourself. You make a manual so that you could clone yourself basically and remove yourself from the doer position and the manager position and be the entrepreneur. So that's the high level. So then the book Systemology was written kind of in conjunction with the author of the E-Myth. And Systemology is the system for creating systems. It is a fantastic book. So I have borrowed some concepts from Systemology as part of my playbook. And the first part they call the critical client flow. I call it the path to profit. Very similar concept. But the idea in the path to profit is you're going to write out your target client and the product, your like most profitable or product or service that you offer. And you're going to, this whole exercise is intentionally with very small boxes, and it should take you 15 minutes or less. I always overthink everything. So I love exercises like this where you're forced to not overthink. So I'll show you an example. I don't know if you can see that. So device not connected. There's my monitor. There we go. Okay. So the concept behind this is that you start at the top with how do you get attention into your business? So however that is. So this is a lawn care company, and their target client is homeowners with yards that are larger than an acre. So this is how they attract leads. Then how do they handle interest? People email them through their websites, they get phone calls, they get DMs on social media. Then they meet with the homeowner, then they send a proposal or a quote, then they go negotiate the quote, they sign the contract, then money. They set up monthly payments. If you're a retail business, this is as simple as you swipe a credit card, or if you're a service-based business, maybe you send an invoice, maybe you set up a payment plan, whatever. Onboarding. Onboarding can be as simple as determine a weekly lawn mowing schedule, or it could be, an extensive process. Delivery. How do you deliver the product or service? We cut the grass, we weed whack, we apply fertilizer. We do hard or softscaping if needed. And then how do we get repeat business? So that is the idea of the path to profit, that you're going to outline every high-level touch point of the most profitable service or product that you offer. And what this does, and what this did for me when I did this, was it really brought to light the things that I was doing, but I was doing inconsistently, that I didn't realize I needed a process for, or that I was ignoring altogether. And so this is, you're outlining the processes, and the processes are the what has to get done. And what you do, or what I do after this, and this is really the starting point. I know there's a lot in between, like delivery, or did my camera just freeze? Or, how do we actually, let's say maybe you're a website developer, you need processes for how do you create the website? How do you get feedback from your client? There's all stuff like that, but this is the starting point. Then from here, you fill out what is called the department and responsibilities chart. Very original. Here, you're going to take everything that you wrote down from the path to profit and you're going to break it down into departments. And so you're going to say the marketing team is responsible for this, the sales team. And if you've got a team of people, you would list that under team. So you've got the department head and the knowledgeable workers. Again, these are terminologies from systemology, because the concept there is if you're the business owner, a lot of times you're too close to these things, that you want to find the person in the company who is, who makes the best landing pages, who is the best salesperson who closes the most deals, who can send invoices faster than anybody. And you have that person do the work. And you either, if it's live in person, somebody can go around and record them, film them. If you're again, like a carpenter, you could go around and film somebody, or if you're a landscaping company, go see how they cut the grass. Or if you're online, screen record yourself doing your monthly accounting, screen record yourself making a social media plan. And I've done a lot of these things where I will just talk to my phone and do an audio recording, pop it into ChatGPT, and then tell it to organize my random thoughts and rambling and put it into, an SOP. So we take all of this, we find the person who does it the best, and then we write down instructions. Now, if you really want to get fancy, this is my ClickUp. This is my process library in ClickUp. So if you're using a project management software, what you can do, or what I recommend, is taking all of these processes and making them, at least how I have them in ClickUp. This is literally a screenshot of my real workspace, of all of the processes that you want to write out. And I categorize them: biz ops, sales, marketing. It's just me. I've got statuses for, are they up to date? Are they under construction? Do I need to create these? And I had this for the company I worked for previously, where we had a library like this, and people would comment in that SOP if they had ideas for improvements, which that brings that collaborative aspect into it. So somebody could say, I've got an idea to improve this, or what if we add a form for here? And then this is a living, breathing process library and I have my processes in Google Docs, which there you go. This is an example of, I can send you guys all these templates after the fact. But I keep my the actual processes in Google Drive, but then I link to them in my ClickUp. So then we got day of prep. So again, with structure and consistency, all of my SOPs are, a summary of who's doing this, what is it for, how does it start? How does it start? Step 1. Good. And then what is your definition of done? Because I'm a huge component of what is your definition of done? All the software needed, the steps, links, I link to everything. So this is the how. The processes are the what has to get done. What? I need to go visit my mom this weekend. How would be the directions on how to get to her house. So the what, I need to prep for a YouTube live, and the how is your instructions right here. Is another example, because I hate doing my monthly accounting. So this is like a 5-page thing, but I've got, open up all my accounting software, open up the banks, download my statements, so even though it's just me, my brain doesn't remember things if it's not written down. So I've got very, very detailed SOPs here. Oh, I thought I had one more slide. So the results of getting everyone on the same page. So now everyone knows exactly what to do, and everyone's doing it the same way. Your definition of done is clear, so there is no excuses for mistakes. One of the concepts from systemology that they talk about in the book is that since your SOP defines that definition of done, if someone completes a task, and they mark that task as complete, they are unofficially, signing off that they have completed this to the definition of done. And if their manager or you or whoever goes in there and sees that it was not done correctly, you can go back and say, hey, did you follow the SOP? If they say yes, maybe we got to train them a little more. If they say no, be like, well, it was right there. Like the definition of the steps to complete it, or even if they missed a step. Like there's no excuses for missing steps. There's no excuses for it not being completed to the expected standard. because the expected standard is outlined in the documentation. And my favorite, you can stop answering the same damn question 47 times and tell people to check the SOP. I was so notorious for this at my last company. People would send me Slack messages, be like, Jacqui, what do I do? How do we close out this client project? You know, like, did you check the wiki? Did you check the SOP? And I got quite a reputation for that, but it saves me so much time. Instead of, I wouldn't even find the link and send it to people. That's, I did that for a while. Like, go find it yourself. It's there because I wrote it. Go look. So it saves you a lot of time there. All right, next, concept 3 is organization and task management. So this was back in October. I presented a ClickUp webinar, and people downloaded my template, and I got some feedback on what problems people were having. And ClickUp as a project management software, one of the biggest, most frequent comments was that there's too much in my project management software. It is so disorganized. I don't know what to work on. I need to get it sorted out. And I was like, okay, this is a bigger problem than I really thought it was. So the issues with, inconsistent project and task management is everybody's doing things differently, which if we write out our processes and write out our SOPs, the project management becomes easier. So that's why getting a handle on the processes is first. The other issue was I spend more time figuring out what to work on than actually doing the work. And the other thing from a leadership perspective is, I have no idea what my team is working on. And I was talking to a client today who were trying to get their capacity planning under control. And they're using ClickUp, but not everybody's using ClickUp. So people are saying they're busy, but there's no tasks to report back to say, yes, this is what I worked on all week. So having an organized task and project management system is going to help tremendously. So this is what I was looking for before. So if we outline our processes, we write SOPs, we can then create project and task templates based on those SOPs, which is what I do. So if I've got a process written out in a Google Doc on how to write a blog article, or I need to do research, these are the high level things. Like I need to do research and I've got my check boxes. Because again, if I don't have a reference or something's not written down, I am not going to remember to do it. So I've got a blog article template, a lead magnet funnel template. I've got so many project templates in ClickUp. It's crazy, but that's how I stay organized. So you're going to make project and task templates from those process and SOPs. Aha, this is what I knew I had. This is my favorite thing. So if you see there, the arrow goes to SOP create landing page. That is from my project library. So the process library. So the process library is what houses and holds all of your processes. But then this is the task template or the project template. So then, even though I've got those subtasks and checklists within there, if I still want to go back and reference the nitty-gritty details, I have the process doc linked in the template. So then I want to create a new lead magnet, let's say. I want to create, maybe I'll make a PDF of this playbook and get it out to everybody. I will use the project template in ClickUp so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's got a link to my SOP. So when I forget or when I think I forgot something, I can go back and I can check the SOP doc. All right, and this is one of my favorites. Is anybody familiar with Agile or Scrum? All right, we got Brett saying yes, Kim saying no. All right, so I'll do a very quick introduction to this. So Scrum is a project management style where you plan ahead and you work in very small chunks. It was originally I guess you could say invented by software developers. But I recently read a book, and I am a certified Scrum Master. So I recently read a book called Scrum, the Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. And the entire book is about how to apply Scrum to non-development teams. They talk about using Scrum for church organizations, using Scrum for higher education. So Scrum is just a different way to project manage. And a few months ago, I implemented Scrum for just me. which again sounds crazy because Scrum is supposed to be for a group of people. But Scrum, and I'm calling this Scrum Lite. Scrum is for constantly shifting priorities and, oh, there's a shiny new object. Let me go work on that, even though I had a plan for the day and I already have 17 open projects. So the concept of Scrum Lite is, as a group, you're going to prioritize your projects. And I have some screenshots. So you have, in my ClickUp, I have a projects list, and you break down everything that has to be done to complete that project. And you're able to get shit done in small chunks because Scrum works on short cycles. A typical, they call them sprints. Sprints are typically 2 weeks. They shouldn't be any more than 4 weeks. So what you do in a sprint, you do sprint planning. You look at your projects and you say, okay, what is the most valuable, highest impact work that we can focus on for the next 2 weeks? So if it is a software development team, let's say it's ClickUp, you would say, okay, we have these feature requests. What is the highest valuable new feature or bug that we can fix or release in the next 2 weeks? And what are all the things that we need to get done for that to happen? For me, for example, I've been working on this presentation for the last few weeks. So for my last sprint, it was, do the research, outline the content I'm going to talk about, put together the slides, put out some things on social media. I didn't get everything done, but you're putting together all of the things that you need to get done. And the idea too is that you only should have, like, if you're doing this, the company wide, each team should really only have 2 max projects active at one time, which has helped me because I have shiny new object syndrome and I get all these ideas and I just want to start doing everything, but I lose focus and I have a great day planned and then I read something online and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start doing research on this. And then I go down a rabbit hole and then the whole week shot and I look back and I went, well, what the hell did I do? So this has really helped me as just an individual to stay focused. So the other thing is you do daily stand-ups. So a stand-up is supposed to be 15 minutes. That's why it's called a stand-up. You stand up, you talk about what you are going to work on today, what you completed yesterday, what you're going to work on today, and is there anything blocking you? And at the end of the 2 weeks, you show off your work. And you do what's called a retrospective. And this goes back to what Brett said with the after action report, because after a sprint, you show off your work. So if your sprint is, get this presentation done. If I was with a group, let's say I was gonna do the presentation next week, I'd say, all right, here's my slides, here's my work, and I show everybody and get feedback. If you're a development team at the end of your Scrum, you publish out whatever feature you just released. So the point is that at the end of the sprint, you have something tangible to show someone. Like, look at actually what I did. I didn't just do research all week. I actually did shit. And then you make suggestions for improvements. So you say, okay, what went well during this sprint? Like, what did we do that really clicked, that really got our momentum? And then, well, what didn't go well? Well, maybe I got distracted on Wednesday and I didn't stick to my task list. I researched something for half the day I shouldn't have, or, I didn't stick to the plan at all. So you reflect on what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, and then you make a plan for what you're going to improve the next sprint. So it's built. Oh, go ahead.
So if you go back to the previous, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Terminology thing, I'm a little, way you've explained this makes a lot of sense. And even though it was designed for IT development originally, the way, as many people have discovered, with a little bit of twist of language, you can use this for a lot of different things, whether individually or collectively. You create agility by putting the work into different chunks and then orchestrating so that everyone is, not everyone is just pointing at the same shiny object. Someone's actually bringing these things together. So, but again, I'm jiggy with it.
And but for the what are you saying? For the shiny new objects too, like priorities change all the time. And I feel like a lot of businesses that I've been a part of, you set these annual OKRs and, by February, like shit's out the window. And, this allows you to every 2 weeks, like refocus, regroup. And that's what this slide was for. It allows you to build structure without micromanagement. My husband with the DoD, his team wasn't, operating a Scrum framework for a while. And if everybody's on board and everybody's bought into it, you have this backlog of work, which is all of your tasks in that sprint that need to get done, and they don't get assigned to someone. the whole team knows that we've got these 10 things that have to get done in the next 2 weeks. And when you're done with it, you go in and you pick the next thing and you work on it. And when you do your stand-ups, if somebody says, oh, well, I didn't do anything yesterday, the team jumps on that person. It's like, you're not carrying your weight, dude. Like, it almost takes the management out of it because it's a very self-organizing group. So it has structure, but without the micromanagement, because everybody becomes accountable, because if you don't, you're being called out on it every single day. And that's where the second bullet point, it takes the guesswork out of what will I do today. And I literally, even though I have ClickUp, I have Post-it note for myself. I look at my sprint list, and for the day, I say, what are the top 3 things I'm going to do today? And I do a stand up with myself. And I say, what am I going to do today? And I put it on a Post-it note, and it's on my calendar, and it's in my in my ClickUp. So it eliminates that thought, because the other thing is you prioritize the projects. There it is. So this is a screenshot of my projects list in ClickUp. And there's a priority score, which is made up of impact, urgency, and effort. Because again, the idea is, what is the most valuable, most impactful thing I can do? Because I would get caught up on that. I would find a shiny new thing that I thought was fun to work on, but it might not have been the most valuable, impactful thing I could do. So you, in advance, score everything. So when you get all excited, like, look at this shiny new thing, I say, no, Jacqui, shut up and look at you already determined all this. And you work in the order of your priority scores. And then your subtasks there are the things that you do to work on them. So then this is a snapshot. I know this is really, really, really tiny. I think I have this up in ClickUp. Yeah, there we go. So this is my sprint dashboard. This is literally real life, real time right now. You're getting a sneak peek into my real world. And I love this. I've got all my tasks. I've got my tasks broken down by type. So client work, tickler, which is repeating stuff. I've got my sprint burn down, which again, the gray line there is supposed to be my trend line. The red is how many tasks green is completed. Red is how many tasks I have left. So I'm a little bit off my trend line here. But again, for accountability, if I was on a team and it wasn't just me, I would have a chart here for work by person. But I've got my task list. I've got my client work is different. I've got a board view, my swim lane, because I time block. So I have, what do I need to do per swim lane? And it is super, super, super organized, and it takes the guesswork out of a lot of things. We got 7 minutes. All right, so what are the results of this? I quoted this from the Scrum book. You can complete twice the work. Projects complete twice as fast without needing more people. That's the key thing too. Because if everybody is focused on a common goal, not off, on their own fun side projects, you don't need to hire more people. You don't need to extend a deadline. You hyper focus for a set period of time, you get something done, and then you move on to something else. So less mistakes are made. Everyone knows what everyone is working on, because that's another huge thing I hear all the time from clients is, I don't know what people are actually working on. Well, you've planned ahead, you know it, and you can bring real accountability to projects. And the last but not least component of the playbook is, where the hell is that thing? Decentralization. Every time I start with a new client, I say, show me what you're currently doing. And they go, well, I've got a spreadsheet, but actually I've got 2 other project managers who have their own spreadsheet about the same thing. And something's in my Gmail and something is buried in ClickUp, but then we switch from Asana, but somebody's still using Asana and we're using Google Drive, but then the file might be in somebody's personal Google Drive. And you know where I'm getting at. It's a huge, huge, huge problem. Decentralization. Also communication. If we're talking about a project that's going on, somebody could email me, they could text me, they could put a Post-it note on my desk. Communication's like telephone with a drunken toddler. I was on a client call last week, and the woman says, oh, I know I asked my management team about the thing that we're supposed to work on, so I get their feedback, but I don't know where I asked them for the thing. I looked at her, I was like, really? She goes, I don't know if it was in Teams or if they texted me, or I was like, really? She's like, I know. I'm sorry, Jacqui. I'm sorry. So centralizing communication is really key here. So we can, because balls get dropped, work gets duplicated, and deadlines get missed because shit is everywhere. So this is something that I just started. So this is very rough, but a tech stack audit. There we go. I had been thinking about this, and a client recently said, we have too many apps. Like, we need to get this under control. So I made up this very, very rough spreadsheet, but you list out all your apps, what department that it's for, what it is, how frequently do you pay for it, is an annual cost, and then here, this is where we get fun. Do you love it? Do you love it? Like it? Meh, hate it. Are we going to keep it, toss it, or not sure? And then here we go. We bought this at a CD-ROM back in 2005. But the thing here too is that you also have to list things that are free. So I found an article from a company called AvePoint recently that said the average company has 125 apps and they use 11 on average. 11. Yes, no governance. I know, it's insane. They use 11. So the tech stack audit is not just about bleeding money. It's about getting organized. And do you have 5 free tools that do the same thing? And I'm going to call myself out here in this new age of AI. All right, we got 4 minutes. I've got a paid ChatGPT. I use Claude sometimes. I use Perplexity sometimes. There's ClickUp AI. And sometimes I'm doing research and I go, well, where did I research that thing? And I'm like, come on, Jacqui, like, take your own advice here. So it's not just about if you're bleeding money, it's about the free tools as well. So this was a very short slide, but the point here is that I feel like this resonates with everyone, even personally. You could say my husband, like, we just did our taxes. Did we print out all the documents? Did we put it in a shared folder? Is it in our manila folder in a cabinet somewhere? Like, where is this stuff? So again, according to this research by AvePoint, they say you can reduce your tech stack cost up to 91%. It was something like the average employee, a company pays like $1,100 a month, or maybe a year, $1,100 a year, I'm sorry, on their tech stack, which sounds insane. So if you reduce that and you have one app for one thing, you know where to find things. One place for documents. You can always bring documents into a project management software, but one place for documents. You communicate, you pick Slack, you pick Teams, you pick Google Chat, you pick whatever, and you communicate in one place. And then project details and updates are in one place as well. And that is the end of my deck. So I had planned to talk about the summer boot camp, but I did not prepare that. But if you think that that's something that would be interesting, I think it's going to be an 8-week, go through this in detail, in depth, with homework. I'm still putting together the details, but since it will be a beta, I'm going to offer it like really stupid cheap. So if you're interested, you can let me know.